Hello guys, I'm Comic Book Movie Film Productions. So Dark Phoenix came out this year, and was quickly forgotten about. It's quite disappointing considering this is the ending to the series that brought Marvel and comic book films back to life basically, and we're at the beginning of the modern era of superhero films along with Blade and Spider-Man, so it still continues to this day. And the fact that this series ended on such an underwhelming note with so many issues behind the scenes and repeating the same mistakes that it did previously 10 years ago, and now with how much of a flop it was, both critically and financially, it will always be seen as a stain on the X-Men legacy. It may not be the first, but like how a bad ending can ruin a movie, a bad final stomach can ruin the reputation of a series. So today I wanted to give my version of how I would change the film since the Endgame video did so well. So I thought you guys would enjoy my take on a movie that actually needs a lot of work unlike Endgame. So before we start, I'm just going to state a few things just to get them out of the way. First off, I'm not going to include Jessica Chastain and her army of knockoff Skrulls, due to the fact that in this cut, much like the actual film itself, they aren't needed in the story. Secondly, I'm going to try and tie this in with the original X-Men films, or at least hint at them in a different way, due to how Days of Future Past ended. Thirdly, this is just going to be a basic outline of how I would do the film, so if things seem empty or there are gaps in the story, it's probably because this is just going to be the general storyline in the movie. Lastly, like the Endgame rewrite, apart from one new character, I'm not going to add any new characters and stick with the main cast, and the films that came before it. Now with all that out of the way, let's get into how I would rewrite Dark Phoenix. Starting off, I would rename it to just X-Men Dark Phoenix. I know in some places it has that name and it's even on the Blu-ray cover, but it was officially released as just Dark Phoenix and that kind of annoyed me. But let's actually get into the movie. First off, I wouldn't have the film set in 1992, but it would be in 1986, being set 3 years after Apocalypse. It does kind of ruin the decade jumping that this prequel series is known for, but it would be a lot more believable for the cast the age of 3 years instead of 9 and only looking 3 years older. It's one of the main issues with the prequel series that the main characters look the same despite it's been 30 years since First Class. The film opens up with a montage of the X-Men stepping out of the spotlight into the world as it shows them on missions, winning over the public's trust, actually gains in progress of humans and mutants coexisting with one another, and other examples like it. This opening would fill in all the gaps from the ending of Apocalypse at the beginning of this film. Plus, we would know what the world was like going into this film and the stakes that is set up supposedly that I'll explain later. The first act is mainly about setting up this new team of X-Men. In a perfect world, I would have an X-Men film in between Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix, so we would not have to worry about setting up any of these characters and just throwing them into the situation. The final film only shows a hint of that in Mystique and Jean's friendship along with the relationship with Cyclops that is barely shown as well. I would have a lot more scenes of character development where you see Jean interacting with her X-members, and making these mutants a lot more human than you expect, especially with Professor X. One of the biggest mistakes of Dark Phoenix was how unlikable they made Charles Xavier. I'm not taking the blame for Jean until the end of the movie, and it's way more egocentric. In this version, I would have Charles feel guilty about having to repress Jean's memory. The Jean flashback I would change and have it be more extended. Why may instead of just having a car crash be the thing that she represses, it would more or less focus on Jean's childhood before she got sent off to the X-Mansion, with her trying to defend herself whenever kids made fun of her or bullied her, destroy items around the house, and as the years go by, it would grow more powerful until one day, maybe when she's a tween or something, some popular kids tried to attack her and embarrass her in front of the whole school. I said this during a football game at nighttime so you would feel the extra sense of dread and intensity. The context for this scene would be in a previous scene in a science classroom during a science experiment. She got the confidence to stand up to a popular girl calling her names, and she uses what little control she has of her powers to spray some dangerous chemicals directly into her face. And then when she goes to the eyewash station, it just explodes in her face as Jean smiles. So the pop chick, her boyfriend and some of his friends, try to assault Jean as they pin her up against a tree, and as one of the guys is trying to stab her with his pocket knife, similar to the scene in It where the bullies assault Ben and try slicing him open with the pocket knife, but Jean uses self-defense to push him away, but he ends up getting killed due to Jean pushing him through the forest, hitting multiple trees and then gets impaled on a tree branch. Nobody hears due to the football game being too loud for anybody to notice. The public gets run away and try contacting the authorities the next day, but Jean is nowhere to be found. Her parents find out about the dead kids, the authorities try to question her about it, but they don't believe her due to her size and strength, not matching up with the immense damage the boys did to the kid's body. The authorities end up suspecting the boyfriend and his friends did it, due to their strength combined and the fact that they were already on school grounds. So they all get expelled with some serving jail time, depending on how rich the families were, and all get probation. Charles says when the authorities are questioning Jean, similar to the scene in X-Men 3 where he and Magneto talk to Jean and her parents at their house, except with no horrible de-aging effects. This scene would be set 10 years prior before the events of this film take place. Jean lets Charles read her mind and then he realizes that the only way to save Jean is to wipe her memory clean of the incident. He doesn't think she's a psychopath, so he's using self-defense and letting him in, unlike most of the students he interacts with at first, so he convinces Jean's parents to let Jean join his school, which they are fine with due to them seeing Jean's potential and them being terrified of her. Cut to 10 years later and Jean's a lot happier and is one of the most popular kids everyone loves at the school. I would do a Thor Ragnarok style rewrite where Jean is a lot more outgoing and likable than she was in Apocalypse, while also being incredibly smart. Then as I mentioned previously, we would have more scenes of her interacting with the team, and especially with Cyclops, so you get those connections and have her character be a stark contrast to how she ends up later on. Charles has become incredibly successful in progress for the mutants, and his school's been growing and growing, even to the point where he's renovating the school to have more room for students. He loves what he's done, but still feels the heavy burden of wiping his memory and getting away with murder basically. And after the events of Apocalypse, he's been on edge after seeing that she can wipe out a god in mere seconds. And that's what the whole theme feels that she's basically the Hulk in the early Avengers films, being the brute strength of the group. And we keep the plane scene as an example for how the team operates, and showing how each team member contributes to the situations. The next big action set piece would involve the main villain of the film, Mr. Sinister. He was seized at the end of Apocalypse and was never given the light of day so far. He was rumored to be the villain in both Logan and New Mutants, but those ended up not being true. It may be a little annoying at first having two villains in the film, but I think adding Mr. Sinister would be an interesting addition to the X-Men universe. So how would he fit in the film? Basically, he would be the Puppet Master. He isn't as powerful as he is in the comics, but he does have some powers like telepathy. He's experimenting with people to recreate his own version of the X-Men, seeing the superheroes as a window of opportunity to hatch his plan to take over mankind, as he sees them as dogs and doesn't like the fact that the mutants have been hiding underground for centuries. So after finding out about Jean, he sets up a fake rescue mission for the X-Men at an abandoned Exodus Corporation factory, for example, that's on fire, and while the X-Men are there, Mr. Sinister hatches a bot that gets into Jean's ear that leads into her brain, managing to gain control of Jean's powers and most importantly her rage, which is where she is most vulnerable. After the X-Men return to the mansion, they decide to have a party like the film, as Jean starts to have an anxiety attack due to her being overwhelmed by people constantly annoying her. This film stops Jean having these anxiety attacks, with the music growing silent and the camera doing intense close-up of people's faces as the world around her slows down. Really feels as if she's in a different world for everybody else, which is her main arc of the film and feeling like an outcast of the X-Men. So she freaks out of the party due to her anxiety attacks and destroys the place. Essex sees this and immediately becomes more interested in getting the Jean. As the film progresses, Sinister starts to manipulate Jean in her dreams to force her powers out of her. But I don't want to make this a Jean Grey movie. Jean Grey gets most of the focus in the film, along with Xavier because he is important to the story, but each member gets something to do. Hank and Riven try to lead the X-Men to do their own thing, such as getting into the political arena. Nightcrawler and Storm try to use their X-Men influence as a way to help out their world communities where they grew up in. Scott tries to see what's going on with Jean, and Quicksilver is trying to fight Magneto and tell him that he's his son, since he refused to say it to him at the end of Apocalypse, and he's felt guilty ever since for not telling the truth about Magneto, like the film, has his own community of runaway mutants, including Psylocke, who gets a lot more development than Apocalypse and becomes a core member of the group. And he uses Xavier's school as inspiration to teach his younger students and work aside with his older students for community service and other things to help the world out. And now has Psylocke and Quicksilver start to form a relationship, as she, him, and Magneto form their own mini-group inside this group. But Sinister starts to throw all the precautions the X-Men made out the window. He threatens to expose Jean for murdering that kid so many years ago from the bot that is in her brain that tells her to meet him at an unknown location. The X-Men wonder what she's doing and follow her. She and Sinister talk and he basically wants her blood to become super powerful, but she sees his mind and his terrifying plan and refuses to let him use her. But he uses the bot to trick her into thinking that she's defeated him by killing him, but in reality she just killed a random human, as Sinister blows up the building and make it look like Jean blew it up herself. The media destroys the progress the X-Men made and go into hiding. The X-Men become divided on who sides with Jean, as she starts to feel the repressed memories, as Charles convinces to wiping Jean's memory to protect her. Right after this happens, Essex makes a fake SWAT call, informing that the X-Men have hostages. So like the scene in X-Men 2, the mansion gets raided with most of the students getting captured, along with Sinister capturing Jean while she's having an anxiety attack, and the rest of the team aren't able to reach her. At this point, the X-Men have pretty much lost all their resources and reputation. Now they have just themselves to rely on. They try and find Magneto, but his base also gets raided with him being the only one able to escape, along with Psylocke. So the rest of the film is a race against time story that's character-centric while also having some levity and fun action. Scissor manages to get a hold of Jean's mind and manipulate her into doing whatever he wants. He tests her out with some of his minions, which she obliterates them all. His main goal is similar to Magneto's plan in the first X-Men film, with using a machine that can tap into the Phoenix Force and spread throughout the whole planet that makes all humanity bow down to Sinister as mutants can run to Earth, similar to Charles' plan in X-Men First Class. The only problem is that he needs specific elements of certain continents to build his machine, as well as signing up with a signal with the satellites to make his plan global. The X-Men see Jean on the news as she starts causing chaos on the news. Throughout the rest of the film, the team learn to become a true team again and pull their differences aside to save Jean and stop Sinister. They manage to get the X-Strike back, after having a comedic scene of them breaking into the airbase and taking it away at ease, as they chase after Jean and Sinister. The continents I would choose that they would go to would be South America, Asia, and then back to North America for the climax. Each of these would be an action set piece, but not be redundant. Each of these would stand on its own. South America scene, which would probably be in Brazil or Rio, would probably be more of a foot chase. Asia would be a lot more about stealth and strategy, and North America, probably New York, would be the grand finale. The first two set pieces would end with our heroes losing, due to their egos and bickering getting in the way, whether it's Charles and Mystique, Scott and Nightcrawler, Charles and Eric, etc. They try to act as a team, but don't come together for those reasons. Jean causes tons of damage, manipulating the mere matter of objects, doesn't cover casualties, and at the end of the second act, Mystique is killed at the hands of Jean, controlled by Sinister. I know I haven't discussed her much, but Mystique will get to play a part in the film along with her original First Class members with Hank, as mentioned earlier. But I also said that Mystique was basically Jean's mom, raising her since she got back to the X-Mansion, and doesn't want her to get hurt, as she says to the team before she dies to save her and be what they were meant to be, way back on the beaches of Cuba so many years ago. This would be the turning point that would lead to the team finally assembling, but not before the Feds show up, as throughout the film they were being chased by their own government, due to them being suspected of conspiracy and murder, similar to the Incredible Hulk. They surrender and get put on a train, like the final film, as Sinister's men raid the train as the team breaks out of their cycles, maybe for the help of Moira McTaggart, who could play a small role in trying to help out the X-Men, as they manage to get off the train and go to Sinister's base where he plans to use Jean, the Empire State Building. The third act would have his own 3-act structure. The train sequence would be the first part, then the team finds Sinister's goons on the ground would be the second part, and then getting up to the Empire State Building would be the last part. There would be a lot of cool action set pieces from Nightcrawler constantly teleporting, killing goons, Quicksilver doing another slow-mo sequence, Magneto and Charles doing their thing along with Beast, Psylocke slicing up bad guys, Cyclops and Storm using their powers shooting bad guys. It would showcase all the characters' powers and be a celebration of the X-Men films like how Endgame was for the MCU. The climax ends with Jean getting stuck in the machine, as Charles goes inside Jean's mind, and Magneto gives his helmet to Charles so Sinister can't invade his mind, as he tries to get Jean out of her subconsciousness. As she throughout the second and third acts is constantly trapped and during the action sequences, she has no power and there would be a voice of her saying her thoughts of pure fear and confusion. Charles can't seem to get Jean out of there, and realizes the only way to get her out of her mind is through destroying the machine, which only Magneto can get to. But due to the rotation of the machine, he is unable to coordinate where the debris will hit him or not. He isn't willing to do it until Quicksilver says that he is his son, and this is what Raven wanted. He agrees and destroys the machine, but gets impaled with some metal debris that ricochets off the machine and falls to the ground dead. Sinister then sends out the rest of his army to kill the X-Men, but not before Jean gains back control, destroying the bot that was inside her brain, as she and the remaining X-Men destroy Sinister's army, as Charles gets inside Sinister's mind as they have a mental battle, digging deep into his past, bringing about skeletons in the closet. But Sinister also does the same thing, from Charles letting himself go in Days of Future Past and the whole Jean situation. Jean then ends up the fight after the X-Men defeat Sinister's army, with her launching Sinister into space and blowing him up in the shape of a cosmic phoenix. The movie ends with Jean confessing to the murder of that kid from so many years ago, but due to it being self-defense, and her not remembering she did it, she serves some time with probation and community service, but doesn't really get punished for it. She also makes amends with her parents and learns to control the Phoenix Force of her being a strong hero. Charles learns not to suppress pain or painful experiences, but to build upon them and learn from them. Hank decides to leave the school and become the world's first mutant politician, while still helping out the school. Quicksilver and Psylocke hook up as Quicksilver goes out some more, but honors Magneto's memory. Nightcrawler and Storm go to explain the Jean situation and restore mutants' reputation in the world. Scott and Jean fix a relationship, and everything is good with the film ending up with a time jump to a few years later with Charles sitting at his desk, as one of his students says that there's a homeless man running around the school, as Charles looks confused as the guy barges in, but we don't see his face. The film ends with Charles smiling and saying, "I've been expecting you, Logan," as the film cuts to black as we hear Wolverine's claws, revealing the guy was Wolverine, tying back to the OG series. So that's my review of Dark Phoenix. I try to be as in-depth as possible, giving each character something to do and having a big story that closes off the series on a high note. I know that some things aren't super comic accurate, but I was more focused on building upon the previous films and fixing upon the issues of this film, such as the character development, build-up, showing Jean's true powers of her struggles and trying to control it, Quicksilver actually getting something to do, and more. I just wanted to make something fun and emotional that sent off the series on a good note. But anyways, what are your thoughts on this video? And what is your version of Dark Phoenix? Leave your thoughts in the comments and also comment if you want more episodes of this series. And please make sure to like and subscribe for more content. I'm Combo Movie Film Productions, signing out.